it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using this Spooktacular set by Lawn Fawn and the Haunted Manor 6x6 by Doodlebug Designs. And I decided to pull out my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers for today. So I'm going to begin coloring this little cat, and I'm going to put the numbers on the screen for you guys as I use them, since they're a little bit hard to see the names of on camera. So I started out with the 94 gray brown and just did a little bit of shading around the edges and the bottom of the kitty, and then I added a little bit of 93 green gray, and then I'm taking the 91 light gray and just bringing that color out a little bit farther. I don't want to color him in completely because I want him to have a nice watercolor look. So I'm going to take my brush here and just dip it in a little bit of water, kind of pinch off the excess, and then I'm just going to blend that color out. I'm going to keep the inner parts a little bit whiter and brighter just for some contrast around the edges. The brushes I'm using today are the silver brushes in the black velvet line. This is a number 4 round. I just like this size for this size of images. Works really well to get into all the little corners. These brushes have really fine tips. What I also really love about these markers is that you can go right back in with your ink again and add more color if you haven't got the contrast that you're looking for. You don't have to wait for the paper to dry. These will blend right on the wet cardstock. And that cardstock is the Bristol Smooth Surface, by the way. I just picked mine up at Michael's. You can use a coupon. It's relatively inexpensive, and it really is the best cardstock to use with these zigs. There's really no comparison, in my opinion, with other cardstocks with these markers. You just want to be careful not to oversaturate the paper with the water, and you want to use a good waterproof ink. I used VersaFine Onyx Black for these images. So for my bat, I'm going to use the number 10 black, which is a very strong color. So I'm just going really sparingly around the edges, just laying in some shading, and then I'm going to pick up my brush and add my water. And I have a paper towel off to the side that I can dab my brush on when it gets too full of pigment and the color isn't really blending out anymore because there's just too much darkness there. So I can just wipe that off and then pick up some clean water again and go back to blending out my image. I really don't want to lose the detail of his face, as I'm coloring. For the pumpkin, I'm using number 23 Scarlet Red as my darkest shade. And I just really love about these brushes that you can just scribble on the color. You really don't have to be too neat about it. It goes pretty quick and easy. If you're somebody who's new to coloring, these markers might be a good option for you because they're not as finicky as some of the other markers. They're really hard to mess up, I feel like. If you have the right paper and the right tools, they're really easy to use. So I'm just blending out my pumpkin with those 3 shades of orange and just going really careful around his face right there, keeping the area around his face nice and bright. And then for the inside of his mouth and eyes and for his little stem on top of his head, I'm going back to my 94 gray brown. This card is actually for our current lawnscaping challenge, and the challenge is to only use black and purple plus 1 color of your choice, and the color I chose to use was orange. So I'm kind of limited to the colors, but that's okay. Actually, in the end card, you're not going to see the little stem anyway, so it's fine. It doesn't need to be green or brown. The black is fine. So now I'm coloring my candy, and I'm using number 82 purple and number 80 violet for that, just to give them a little pop of purple on the card. I knew I was going to use purple in my background, but I wanted another touch of it on the card, so I thought the candy was a good place to incorporate that shade. So I'll just quickly blend those out, and then I'm going to let those dry for a few minutes and then die cut these images with the matching dies. So for my card, I'm going to be using this new MFT Blueprints 29 die set. I just showed this in my recent haul. I had been wanting some of these kind of storybook style dies where you have the 3 different windows so you can create a kind of a comic strip type scene. So now I'm just going to take a piece of scrap cardstock and I'm going to create a background that is going to sit behind that Blueprints 29 die. So I'm just scribbling a couple of purples here onto the Bristol smooth surface, and then I'm going to take a wet paintbrush and just really blend that out until all the colors begin to kind of flow together and create a nice gradient effect. And you can see just how easy this is to achieve with these markers. Now I'm going to take my number 10 black and I'm going to just scribble on some kind of organic looking triangle shapes to create the look of distant trees in the background. These do not have to be perfect. You do not need to stress about it. It's just to create the illusion of something in the distance. And then I'm just going to wet my paintbrush and just go over those a little bit and kind of blend out the color. I'm going to create some lights and darks in the distance there, some shadows. It's just going to add to the look of, distant trees. I went ahead and stamped my sentiment using the VersaFine Onyx Black, and then I went and put some foam tape on the back of my panel. I just had to cut it down into strips, and now I'll just line that up over top of the background and press it into place. And then I can grab my scissors and just go around and trim off the excess behind that panel. I'll use some Tombow Mono Multi-Glue to adhere my moon to my sky. And I'm going to pop my pumpkin up with some foam tape. And then the kitty is going to sit on top of the pumpkin, which will fill in that little box nicely. Just adding a little liquid glue to the part where he's overlapping the pumpkin there. I adhered one piece of candy to the background with the liquid glue, and the other one I'm popping up just to kind of layer those up in the corner there. And then the bat is going to get foam tape on the center of his body, and then just a little dot of liquid glue on each of his wings where they're going to rest on the outside of the popped up frame. Once again, the pattern papers are the Haunted Manor collection from Doodlebug. This is a bit of an older collection. I think it's 2 or 3 years old. I don't make very many Halloween cards, so this paper pad has been lasting me quite a long time, but that's okay. It's got a lot of cute little patterns in it. So I'm taking this one with the bats on it and I'm adhering that flat to the card. These two pieces were die cut using the Mama Elephant Femme Frames dies. And then I'm going to just adhere this orange piece in the center there just to reinforce that orange of the pumpkin, kind of pull that back together a little bit. And then I'm just going to adhere my focal panel to the card with the liquid glue as well, since I already have the dimension on the frame and the little animals inside. And as a final step, I'm going to take some crystal stickles and just add it here and there on the card. Since when you think of Halloween, you usually think of sparkly costumes and starry skies, and I just thought the glitter would make it a little extra fun. So I'm adding it to the bottom of the moon and the candy, and I will also add some to the bottom of the jack-o'-lantern. Just a thin coat. I didn't want it to be too thick. Just more of an accent. And then I'll also add it to the bat's wings, just to add a little extra fun on that side of the card as well. And that's going to complete our card for today. Thank you guys so much for watching and liking and subscribing and leaving me all your wonderful comments. I always read every single one, and I thank you so much. If you missed my last video, it's there for you on screen. You can just go ahead and click the little video clip and it will take you right to it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.